So thank you for being here this morning. I want to ask all of our teenagers to look out at all of these people who have showed up to hear about your experience, their smiling faces, because they all love you and care about you. So I have some very special guests here this morning. Most of them are not awake at this time of day, but they woke up early to share with you about our trip to Belize. So good on you. Okay, so before we get into that, let us listen for the voice of God in our scripture reading from Romans chapter 12. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you, not to think of yourself more highly than you ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has assigned. For as in one body we have many members, and not all the members have the same function, so we, who are many, are one body in Christ, and individually we are members of one another. Let love be genuine, hate what is evil, hold fast to what is good. Love one another with mutual affection, outdo one another in showing honor. Do not lag in zeal, be ardent in spirit, serve the Lord. Rejoice in hope, be patient in affliction, persevere in prayer. Contribute to the needs of the saints, pursue hospitality to strangers. Bless those who persecute you, bless and do not curse them. Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Live in harmony with one another. Do not be arrogant, but associate with the lowly. Do not claim to be wiser than you are. Do not repay anyone evil for evil, but take thought for what is noble in the sight of all. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Okay. So in the light of that verse, we're going to talk a little bit about a few different categories. But before we jump in and hear from their experiences and their perspectives, I just want to give you a brief overview of our week and kind of what happened. So our trip was planned for the beginning of July, originally planned for 7 days. And some of you might guess where this story is going, and maybe you already know. But how many of you have traveled this summer? How many of you have had a delayed or canceled flight? So did we. So our trip was actually shortened a little bit due to delayed flights, missing connection flights. Fortunately, we were not stuck in any airports, but we did have a shortened trip. So we had a bit of a bumpy start, but I think the highlight of the week for me personally was seeing how resilient all of the kids were. They didn't go into the week grumbling about how it was 2 days short and this is just going to be a waste of time, like why are we even doing this? But instead, their trip was shortened and they decided to go all in. So from the moment we got there, they were committed to working really hard and serving the community that we were joining for the week. So I know I've already told them that, but it was truly impressive what they were able to accomplish in a shortened amount of time. So we flew from Kansas City finally and landed in Belize City, and we were greeted by our hosts from Praying Pelicans Missions, which is who we traveled with. Herman and his wife Marion are locals to Belize, and they stayed with us the whole week. Mr. Clive drove us in a bus about 2.5 hours south through some pretty rural areas. Shout out to Mr. Clive, he was great. And we ended up at Independence Nazarene Church in Independence Village, which is led by Pastor Jerome and his wife Diana. Throughout the week, we got to help with VBS in the mornings, which was really cool. We did some painting projects, and we did some food ministry activities, which was really exciting, and the kids will tell you more about that. On our last day, we got to travel to Key Cocker, which is an island just off the coast of Belize City. We traveled there by water taxi, and we got to snorkel with some sharks. I know, we did it. There was somebody that was bit by a shark, but it wasn't any of us. And I will tell you that they were not being safe. So that's a different story. So we got to snorkel in the second largest barrier reef in the world behind the Great Barrier Reef, explore the island, and enjoyed a final meal with our Praying Pelicans hosts. So after a slow start, the week truly could not have gone better. I will let them tell you about it. I'm trying really hard not to steal their thunder because I'm so proud of them and their commitment to the experience. So as we got home, we hung out and kind of talked through like the week, like what really stood out, what were the things that were really memorable and impactful for you, and we kind of settled on 4 different themes. So we have community, faith, family, and connection. So that's what they're going to share with you this morning in light of the little context I've given you. And so I'm going to turn it over to our first speakers.
Hello, everybody. As I mentioned during children's time, my name is Bridget. I am a rising senior at Pembroke Hill, and I am the child of Alice and Reed Crow.
I'm Janie Gasick. I'm a rising junior at St. Teresa's Academy, and my parents are Ann Gasick and Mike Gasick.
So we're going to talk a little bit about community and how we saw that in Belize. And the first thing that we want to discuss is how it was a very judgment-free community there, and how everybody was open and humble, and just, you know, anytime you're walking down the street, someone would be there, someone would wave at you, and they were just very kind and open.
Something else we noticed is how much they relied on each other and just had trust in each other. It's like anywhere you turn, you knew that there would be at least one person there, like, to have your back. And especially, like, being in a new country, it was nice knowing somebody had my back during all the chaos of Vacation Bible School.
Yeah. Another thing that we noticed was the involvement both in the church and with the youth in Vacation Bible School. It was really inspiring to see how so much of the community, so much of the village was there to worship and to be together. And Vacation Bible School was a really big turnout. I mean, maybe around 100 kids each day, more than that. So, I mean, to me, that was really cool to see, because I know that has been something that's difficult, is to have kids be engaged with worship, but it was very clear that they all wanted to be there.
One of the places I noticed community biggest that week was they planned a church service for us on Wednesday because we missed our Sunday church service because of the flight cancellations. And it was planned very last minute, but it had a huge turnout, and it was just full of lots of energy and love, and it was just a nice feeling knowing everyone came together to worship with us.
Yeah, and then another special thing that they did for us, since we were there during the 4th of July week, they actually threw a celebration for us to celebrate the 4th of July, which was really exciting. We didn't think we were going to be able to celebrate it at all while we were there. And me personally, I was okay with it, but I actually ended up feeling somehow more patriotic after the celebration, because they really gave it their all, and they decorated the church and played games with us. And again, it was a really big turnout. A lot of people came, we ate barbecue, and it was a blast.
Another thing that I noted on especially was at the beginning, like the beginning of our trip, it felt like not chaotic, but because of all the flight cancellations and stuff, I just didn't know what to expect. So I was feeling anxious. But like something that helped me calm down was the strangers there were just so nice to everybody they met. Like, we got there and immediately we walked out on the street, and anyone who walked by or drove by said hi and waved, and it was a nice way to settle into the trip.
Yeah, and then the last thing we wanted to touch on was their thankfulness to God, each other, and to us. And I think that really brings the community together to be so grateful for everything that they had, and seeing how much they appreciated us being there it just made me feel better knowing that we were actually doing something and we weren't just there, mooching off of their resources. But yeah, I think that it was really cool to see how much they cared about each other. So that's all we have.
Thank you. So this is a picture of our 4th of July celebration. You can see they had the whole worship hall was decorated for us. We were playing some games. Jenna, if you go back one slide, there was a basketball court in the middle of the village that was just like a local hub. As soon as we got there, the kids made their way to the basketball court and were playing with lots of neighborhood kids, and it was just really cool immediately to see the sense of community and what good a basketball court can bring to a community. So, okay, our next speakers.
Hi, my name is Remy Witt. I'm going to be a junior at Shawnee Mission South. My parents are Jared and Stephanie Witt. And today, me and Tommy are going to talk a little bit about the family and what that means to the people of Independence Village. So first off, I wanted to say that Independence Village really feels like one big family. Like, a lot of them are related, they did tell us that, but they still feel like close family. They treat everybody so kindly, and the older kids are taking care of the younger kids, no matter like if they're not their siblings, and you really saw that with how well behaved. It was really surprising. I was like, oh, this many kids at a vacation Bible school, this is gonna be bad. But like, I didn't have to get on to anyone. Not a lot, but there wasn't like any big issues with how the kids were acting, and they really all were like caring, and they loved to be involved, and they weren't just like sitting there. Like, I feel like in the U.S. sometimes kids don't want to be involved, and they kind of just sit there off to the side. But these kids, they were in it the whole time. VBS, they wanted to be involved in every activity, every game, every song. They were singing along, even if they didn't know the words. They were giving it their all. And they used the church as like a center for this one big family. You can tell this church in Independence Village really brings everyone together, because like during Vacation Bible School, even though maybe not that many people attend the church on a regular schedule, you have so many of these kids, like more than could fit in that church, coming to show up every day just because it brings everyone together on a summer day. And it's not a family that's exclusive. It's not a family that it's like, oh, we're tight-packed and we're not letting anybody else in. From the first day we got there, you could really feel that they were inviting, and they wanted you to feel like you were a part of this family. And that felt really good, because like on the first night, we played volleyball with them. And we planned on having teams, Belizeans versus Americans, and then we switched it up and we mixed teams. And my teammates, I'm not the best at volleyball. They were supportive, and they really invited us to enjoy their culture, and we just had a great time that night.
Hi, my name is Tommy Nesbitt. I'm going to be a junior at Blue Springs South High School, and my parents are John and Christy Nesbitt. And like Remy, I'm going to share a few stories and a couple things I noticed while I was in Belize about family. And I want to start by talking about Pastor Jerome. So he told a few of us the story about how him and his wife have 4 kids that are in heaven, and he didn't give us any details beyond that. But so what he was saying was, since he can't have his own biological family, him and his wife see the church as one big family. And he doesn't just say that to sound good. You could tell he really meant it, because at that church service on Wednesday night that Bridget was talking about, he was so into it. We would watch him there. He was dancing. He was so into it, and you can tell how much he loves the people there and how much he loves the church. And it's not just him. Like, you could see all the people that were there, they care about each other so much. And that kind of carries into something else that I noticed on there, specifically at Vacation Bible School. The older kids there, they take care of the younger kids. They understand that it's their responsibility to help whenever they can. And a story I have to go along with that is these kids were obsessed with piggyback rides. And once they found out that we were willing to give them, they didn't stop asking for them. And it kind of got to a point where I had to be like, I'm sorry, I've given you 7 piggyback rides today. My back hurts, I'm really sweaty, I'm gonna take a break. So I took a break, and then like 5 minutes later, I look up, and there's these 2 like 9 or 10-year-old boys, and they're giving piggyback rides for me, to like these 4-year-olds and these 5-year-olds. And I was like, it's like a small act. The piggyback ride isn't this big thing, but it stood out to me because I'm like, they really care about each other. And like Remy said, the family isn't exclusive. They aren't going to leave anybody out, including us. On that 4th of July party that Bridget was talking about too, they threw it for us. They decorated it with a bunch of U.S. decorations, like you'll probably see in the video later. And they barbecued chicken for us. It was amazing, but really messy. But it was a really good time, and it felt like they kind of like opened their arms to us and let us into their family for a night and for the whole week, and it was really cool to see. And those are a few thoughts, a few stories I have, but I'm going to hand it over to Will now.
I'm going to interject here really quick. So I'm going to tell you just a little bit about these pictures. So we have some of our students who are working on grocery ministry, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But basically, we went to the grocery store and got to buy groceries and deliver them to families within the community that were in need. And so you'll see some of us are carrying groceries back to package up, and then on the left side, we have a couple of our kids who are praying with some of the people that we delivered food to. And then Jenna, if you'd go back one slide, this is Mallory up front praying before maybe at the end of VBS. And you can just see the scope of the community that we had there, how many kids there were. I think there was 150 kids one day. It was pretty wild, and I'm sure that William and Mallory will touch on this, but we were on what they called like church row. So like there was not a shortage of churches there, and the kids who were coming to VBS might have been Catholic or Nazarene or Presbyterian or whatever, but it just wasn't a big deal. Like the kids just came and they had fun together. And Pastor Jerome said something that really stood out to me. He said, as long as you worship Jesus, you're good with me. Like however you do that, we're good. And I really love that. I think that embodies the community of faith that they have there. Okay, William and Mallory.
My name is William Perriam. I'm going to be a senior at Pembroke Hill, and my parents are John and Jessica Perriam.
My name's Mallory O'Neill. I'm going to be a sophomore at Shawnee Mission Northwest, and my parents are Steve and Courtney O'Neill, and then my sister is Edie O'Neill. You've probably seen her. We look pretty similar. And we're going to be talking about faith in Belize, which was a really big part. We're going to touch mainly on two things. Obviously, other people have shared that we participated in VBS, and then we were also a part. They gave us like a thank you service on Wednesday night before we left early Thursday morning. And so one of the big things that I noticed during VBS was like the whole part of a week, the theme was the fruits of the Spirit, which we also made our theme for our second kids camp. And so like they talked about during the children's sermon, it's just all of these like morals to live by. And the kids were really involved with all of these, and like we played games. We didn't play crafts. We played games, we made crafts, and then we had like a story time each day. And so one day was the Good Samaritan, and we acted it out. That was pretty eventful. And so it was really cool to see all these kids involved in the church and like paying attention. And there were just so many that was really cool to see. And then during the church service, one of the things I noticed was they sang a lot. Like the whole first half of the service was just songs. Some of them were really long. They were all like so energetic, and they just like had the words up, and they were like, okay, just follow along. And we were like, what? But we like caught on, and it was a lot of fun. We were like clapping along. They had a tambourine, a drum set, and like a small choir. And so that was really cool. The songs are lots of fun. We were singing them for days after. And then the sermon, Pastor Jerome, he just kind of spoke from the heart about all the things we've done this week, because some of the members of the congregation hadn't like been a part of EBS. And so he just spoke about it from his heart instead of like having a script. And we were talking to Diana about that, and she was like, well, it just depends on the pastor, but a lot of people in Belize will just speak about whatever they want. They don't have like sermon series or whatever. They just speak about whatever's on their heart for that week. And I thought that was just really cool to see. Oh, and also in the church service, everything is a little different than it is here. And so they talk a lot more about sin and Satan. And I noticed that a lot, especially in VBS. Like, if you don't do this, then bad things will happen to you, which is different from a view we have here. But I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about Belize as a whole and as a country. It's a little different from the United States because Belize actually has a national language, a national religion, which is Christianity. And unlike here, I'd say Belize is a little bit more extreme than our views here. Mallory talked about how they view Satan as something to stay away with, and they talk about that a lot. But also just one thing that really I saw was the kids and how motivated they are to really learn about church. And that was something that I was a little bit surprised about, because I think I was a little bit different when I was a kid. Didn't really view church as enjoyment. But yeah, another thing is the church consists of all ages. Just like here, there's even singing, there were some very old people that were able to sing and stand up and sing all the lyrics and songs. And yeah, their national anthem. And the 4th of July, we sang both the American national anthem and theirs, and we did do the whole thing. It was about 5 minutes long, I think, and consisted of a lot of religious aspects as well, unlike ours here. So, yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Yeah, so we've got a couple of pictures of our service projects up here. Here are the kids taking a break from the sun, which was absolutely brutal. We only got sunburned on the last day, though, I'll have you know. So one of the really cool things about the church we were at was just like the kids were the center of the church. It wasn't, the kids were up dancing in the front of their sanctuary, and it wasn't a nuisance, it was just a part of their culture. And I think that that's something that we embody here at Second, although in different ways. But that our children's ministry, our youth ministry are at the heart of our culture here at Second. Okay, up next we have...
Hi, my name's Ava Farmer. I'm a rising junior at St. Teresa's Academy and daughter of Mike Farmer.
Hi, I'm Lucy Kanopik. I'm a rising senior at St. Teresa's Academy, daughter to Sarah Tabor and Sam Kanopik.
Lucy and I are going to talk about the connections we made in Belize, and I'm going to focus on how we made them through service. So as most people talked about, we did VBS there, and I really recognized initially the kids really wanted to talk to us and wanted to learn about where we came from, and we wanted to do the same with them too. But I personally met this girl Yavena right when I got there. She's an 11-year-old who always wore pink, and throughout the week we'd always just when I'd see her around, we'd hug each other and say hi to each other, and that was, I think, the case with many people. They all kind of just had that one person or multiple people who they really got to learn about and build a connection with.
For sure with the kids, I think connection through friendship was really present. On the first night, obviously playing games with the kids was instant friendship, instant besties. But I connected with some of the older girls on the trip for sure on that first night, telling me about their college experiences in Belize, and even some of the girls on the Praying Pelican trip, just getting to know them, getting to know someone who is similar to you that has a completely different life is just really cool, and it was a really interesting experience.
Another way we served their community was through groceries and delivering them to the town. And when delivering the groceries, Herman taught us the talking tower, which gave us the ability to have those deeper conversations, because we'd end in prayer and learn about the struggles, their heritage, and their family, which really was interesting because I never talked to someone that deep of a level without meeting them before.
Definitely, and praying with the elderly and hearing some of their stories was really cool, and I think it's so cool to connect with someone on a vulnerable level, especially someone who's older, but praying with someone, and especially if they were blessing us or praying for us, it just showed the connection, how important connections were to them in that community. So.
And when we were on the island of Cape Calker, I was just walking around, and there was this random girl who she owned a souvenir shop there, and we ended up talking for probably 45 minutes, and I think I unintentionally used the talking tower, but I really got to know her to a deeper level, which I never really had talked to someone one-on-one for that long before without meeting them before.
Yeah, and I think overall, people were so connected to each other through God, kind of earlier with just all of it, family, friendship, all of it is just so, they care about each other the way they care about God, and that was really important to them. So if they saw you in a friendly way or they were related to you, they cared about you and they knew you were important and they wanted you to be there, and it was just so nice, and it showed me that it just gave me a new lens on how to view my own relationships and my own friendships and even my own relationship with God. So thank you.
I think we need to tell them about the relational tower. So this was a really cool part of the trip. Before, we asked our high school students to go into strangers' homes to deliver food to them. Our Praying Pelicans leaders actually trained them on how to have a conversation with somebody that you don't know. So do you guys remember the first level?
Isn't it family?
Nameplate. So you ask their name, and then
People.
So your family, who are you connected with? And you'll notice that we don't jump into what you do for work like we might here, because that immediately establishes your place in the world. And that's not where we want to start. What was 3?
It was house.
Yeah,
And
so
then
where do you live? Not just your street, but are you from Belize? Where did you grow up? That kind of thing.
Wasn't it like an airplane?
Work glove.
Work glove. Okay, so there was like symbols, right? So work glove was like, then what do you do for work?
And then like an airplane?
The airplane. So have you ever traveled anywhere? Where do you like to travel?
And then a tennis racket.
Tennis racket. So your
Sports.
hobbies
Hobbies.
could be sports, maybe not.
And then like the warrior, this ATV soldier.
Yeah, what was that?
Wait, I thought it was the goalpost.
Yeah, so your problems, your struggles, like is there anything going on that you would like prayers for, your struggles?
The goalpost.
Did we miss the goalpost? So like what are you striving for? And then the praying hands was the top of the relational tower. So then the kids got to pray but with the families that they were delivering groceries to, and were blessed by them as well, which was really cool. A great way to have a conversation with somebody that you don't know. And I have also used it unintentionally since then. So I thought that was a really helpful strategy. Okay, a round of applause for our speakers. So it is really nerve-wracking for them to get up here, but they all wrote notes, but I'm telling you that I did not tell them to say any of these things. This is their genuine perspectives and experiences on this trip. And so a huge thank you to all of you, because we go on these trips, sometimes not me, usually not me, but we go on these trips as a representative of this community. And so all of our hosts that we encountered, whether it was Pastor Jerome or our Praying Pelicans leaders, remarked on how these kids carried themselves. And I think that that's a reflection of our community as we enter the world and learn how to be global citizens. They did talk about the strange games that you all play, like throwing balls at each other really hard. They didn't quite get that culture piece of it, but neither do I. So we spent a lot of time talking about our faith community here at Second, faith communities in our region, faith communities around the world, and how they're different, right? Talking about the role of Satan in a worshiping community, and learning how to talk about those things in a non-judgmental way, right? Like things might be similar or different, and that doesn't mean that they're bad or wrong, just different. So we had some really important conversations, and then also I enjoyed hearing their perspectives on being a young person of faith in 2023, because certainly it's different than when we were 15, right? So this trip is sort of a capstone experience. I want to shout out all of our seniors who aren't here because they're at college. This is only about half of our kids, but they're off moving into their dorms, except for Grayson. Hi, Grayson. So this is kind of a capstone experience for our children and youth programming here at Second. And it's one that will have a lasting impact on our kids. So as we are entering a new school year, some of them are going to college, some of them are staying local to head into high school. We're moving into a new season of programming for our kids of all ages here at Second, all the way from birth up to our seniors in high school. And so if any part of you is like, wow, that was really cool. I think that what is going on with our kids at Second is important. I ask that you would consider coming to our youth and child volunteer training after worship today on the 3rd floor. You can grab lunch downstairs at the second Sunday lunch and then come upstairs and just learn more about the things that we do with our kids. A lot of the times you might not know exactly what goes on because we do it on the evenings and the weekends outside of this worship time together. But I ask that you would consider to come upstairs after this and learn more about ways that you can get plugged in with our children and youth ministries. So let's give them one last round of applause. You guys can take a seat, and thank you for listening.